Hello, BookTube. We have another library tour. This is the third shelf of the tall east wall bookcase, and some of it is going to drive the anal retentive among you a little batty. That's all right. It's also heavy on the Greek and Roman classics, but it's not exclusively that. So we're working our way out of that particular Mirkwood. But we start with the mother of all Greek and Roman classics. This is the Histories of Herodotus. This is the George Rawlinson translation that I just love, even though better, more scholarly, sound translations have come around since this. I still love it, and I have this weird cover illustration for this thing. So when I need a Rawlinson, that's the one I go to. And then we go back to Robert Fagles. It's a name that cropped up quite a bit in the last bookshelf tour. This is his Odyssey. The white hardcover with the deckled edges and the introduction by Bernard Knox. Really a thing to have, so, I have it. I just don't have it with the other Fagles. I don't know why. And then we have something that you'll see in used bookstores all the time. That drives me crazy when it happens in used bookstores, but I don't seem to mind it in my own book room. This is Gore Vidal's Julian, a book that we've seen on this channel before. It's his historical novel about the Emperor Julian the Apostate. And the thing that bothers me when I see this in used bookstores on the Cape and whatnot is that it's always in with the classics, even though it's a novel. It's almost like the people in the store don't know or are intentionally misfiling it for the power of association. I don't know why I did it. I think in my case it was just that there was an open spot on the shelf. But I love it. And I think I showed this on this channel before. When I found this hardcover, I took the occasion to reread the thing and loved it even more. Then we have a twofer. This is a name that has also come up in this bookshelf tour, although not any books by this author, I don't think. The author, of course, is Homer, but that doesn't matter. The translator is Chapman. This is Chapman's Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey. These were paperbacks done by Princeton years ago, and I really like them. They have a really, really sensitive introductions, both of them. Although you don't really need that. Chapman works on his own. He is grotesquely inaccurate, and it doesn't matter in the slightest. His Iliad, especially, but also his Odyssey, Chapman's Homer, just as one big gigantic epic, is one of the great poetical achievements of the Elizabethan era. Just on its own, regardless of whether or not there'd ever been someone named Homer. I cannot recommend them highly enough if you are in the right mind frame. They take a little getting used to. And then we break out of the classical mode completely. This is The English King. This is by Michael McDonnell, who was a prolific Fleet Street reporter on the government and on monarchy, and he decided to write what should, by all accounts, have been a blousy, bloviating book on the modern constitutional monarchy and what it means for a democratic state. And yet, the book is wonderful. It should have been unbearable, but it isn't. It isn't unbearable at all. I was very happy to find a copy at the Brattle, because I read it in a London library decades ago and never thought I would see a copy in America. So I'm glad to have it, because as some of you will know, I'm a fan of the House of Windsor, which is the book's sole subject. And then we have this is volume 2. When did this come out? Well, it doesn't matter. This is volume 2 of Guglielmo Ferrero's long history of the transfer from the Republic of Rome to the Empire of Rome. And right at volume 2, he does a whole volume on Julius Caesar. This is basically a biography of Julius Caesar, and it's amazing. Ferrero's just great, and I love all of his books. I would love to have the whole set. I'm sure that the other volumes will turn up at the Brattle, but the one I really wanted was the one book on Julius Caesar, the pivot on which the whole government change that he's writing about turned, the living pivot of that turn. As far as Julius Caesar biographies go, it's never touted as one, of course. It's just one book in a series, and it's long gone out of print, but it's great. Just fantastic. And then we have something that isn't classical. We go back out of the classical mode. This is a neat little hardcover that I found of The Education of Henry Adams. Not a particularly attractive cover design, but I really like the feel of the book, and I needed a hardcover of The Education of Henry Adams because my paperback, I have the two old the 2-volume old Time Life trade paperback edition, the one that splits in the middle of the book, and you one volume for one volume for the other. But those old Time Life paperbacks, I might love them. I love how stiff the cover boards are. I love the adventurousness of the line, but they really do not age well. If you find one and you open it, it will crack apart. So this is one of my favorite 20th century works of nonfiction. So I needed a copy of it, and I found this for free. So it'll do. I don't know of any particular edition that I would want more. Then we have a little novella. This is Hesperus Press. They do these little novellas. This is L.P. Hartley's Simonetta Perkins. His little novella about a young woman who falls into ill-conceived lust in Venice. He's most famous for his novel The Go-Between. And he also did he's one of those authors where I really wish someone would go through the record and just make a big, gigantic volume of all his book reviews. He is so pithy and quotable in his book reviews. And he did them forever. He did thousands of them. And then, as far as I know, in America, they've never been collected. Simonetta Perkins I do reread. He has a very sharp tongue in his fiction, and I like that a lot. His witticisms stand up, even after, this thing is probably 70 years old. So I go back to this on the shelf, and I'm glad that I have it in this room. But what I would really love would be a collected Hartley reviews. A collected Hartley essays and reviews would be just, what a thing. Don't know if such a volume has ever existed. Maybe in the UK, certainly not in America. And then we have, this thing is fairly new. This is On Poetry by Ghislaine Maxwell. A puff sheet falling out of it. This is magnificent, a thin but magnificent exploration on his part of what poetry is, what it does. I've read a lot of books like this, and I've never read one that comes close in the modern era to how brilliant this is on every page. You'd have to go back, I think, to Spencer. You'd have to go back centuries to get, I think, a meditation on poetry that's this good and this accessible to people who aren't poets. So I have it in here. And then next one, something we've seen on this channel before. But this is Patricia Meyer Spax's book on rereading. And ironically enough, I reread it all the time. It's all about, she picks a few particular books that she decides to reread, but she also, it's full of great observations about the activity of rereading. What are we doing when we reread a book? And I'm a sucker for that because I do a lot of rereading. Then we go back to the classics. We're going to finish out this shelf. We're going to grit out the shelf with classics, and then there are very few classics left on the rest of this big bookcase. So if you can just bear with me. The next one is Archibald Campbell. This is 100 years old. This is his book on Horace. This is a classic old life and letters approach. So you've got, when did this come out? 1924. You've got everything that was known to classical scholars about Horace's life, and you've got a classical scholar who's really good at reading the poems, which is a combination that gets rarer and rarer as the decades move on and the disciplines become more balkanized. So that nowadays, if you're going to grad school for Roman literary biography, in other words, the half of the book where you would study the life of Horace, then it's not even expected that you will know anything about the poems, or much less be able to discourse on them sensitively. It's not even expected of that, and vice versa. If you're doing Roman literary history or comparative literature and reading the poetry of Horace, you're not really expected to know much about the biography. Certainly not to be able to write about it with this kind of skill and grace. So I this of course showed up at the Brattle, and it's, of all the millions of books like it on Horace, this is the one that I like the most. So I have it here. I don't know why I don't have all the Horace books together, but it doesn't tend to bother me. And then we have this is an Everyman Library thing. I found it with the plastic library covering already on it. Very nice. This is the New Testament. This is the King James New Testament. It has a nice scholarly introduction, and it has some notes, but it is mainly just the New Testament with the tassel bookmark and all that. And the reason that I like it is because I have found that it really changes your reading of the New Testament to read it as its own thing rather than as the back half of an enormous Bible. Now, I have it as the back half of an enormous Bible many places throughout here at Hyde Cottage, but this is my standalone New Testament, and I go to it all the time because it has its own historical weight. And I know the Christian church fathers would have wanted it always to be connected with the scriptures that it claims they fulfill. But I love reading it separately. Almost love reading it as a novel. And when you read it separately like this, you can do that. You can read it as like an Ian Pear style. Something happened, and we've got 4 very refracted tellings of that something, and it's up to us to decide what's at the heart of it all. Sometimes it's fun to read it that way. Then we have another twofer. This was a hit 100 years ago. This is Samuel Dill's. I don't know if you can see that. Roman Society. The first volume is the beginning, and the second volume is the bitter end. And let me see if there's a date on this thing. 1906. This was. I have underscored and underlined, and I go back to these things all the time as a literary study. It just cannot be surpassed. It had all the book people of its time talking about what it leaves out, what it leaves in, how good it is, that sort of thing, including Theodore Roosevelt, who dashed off a review of it and then dashed off another review of it anonymously so that he could have more thoughts on the matter. And he knew and would correspond with all the classicists of his day. They all talked about Dill. They all talked about this set. It's totally gone now, totally forgotten. I wish it weren't. I wish that some enterprising publisher would come out with a new 2-volume set of this. It's really, really good analysis of Roman literature, but as we've seen in this room, it's the sort of thing that's unlikely to have a second life, so I was glad I had it. And then the last thing is something I just got the other day. I just recently got. Basic Books did a reprint of Alan Bloom's translation and commentary on the Republic of Plato. I've had this before many times. I had it. When did this come out? Paperback came out this year, I think. No, late last year. You go to a used bookstore with a classical section, you can't possibly avoid the Bloom Republic of Plato. It's kind of the definitive volume in English. And I've had it. Because of that, I've had it many times and never kept it. One reason or another, either because I'm not that big a fan of Plato, or because sometimes Bloom's analysis strikes me as just a little bit woolly, a little bit insider baseball. And most of the time because the book itself, the trade paperbacks that I've got in various bookstores, was just not well made, was not going to stand up to scrutiny. And this is. So when I got it, I thought, well, you'd better come in here. So there you have it. That is the 3rd bookshelf of the tall East Wall bookcase. And it was heavy on the classics, but that should be the last of that for this. As we work our way down towards the floor, that concentration, I think, disappears completely. So we'll see next time if I'm right. I'll see you soon, Book 2. Thank you.